Hey, beautiful people, Marie Alessi here. Today, I have chosen to talk to you about opening doors. This is a term that I have been using for a really long time already, and that was way before I started Loving Life After Loss. And only last week, I had a conversation with a person that I care deeply about, and I realized what a connection there is between sales and grief. Bear with me. I understand that is a very bizarre combination or comparison when you literally just hear about that without any background. So this is exactly what I would love to share with you in today's meaningful mindset. So that's how the conversation went. This person is part of my extended family, and I really don't want to mention him here because I don't feel that would be a fair thing to do. Yet there's one thing that I would like to share for the sake of this very session here today. It went on about a program that he wanted to gift to my children. And what happened was my gut instinct, that, as you all know, I trust very strongly, told me straight away, I do not want this for my boys. This is not a choice that I would make for them or myself. I knew it instantly and I felt it instantly and I felt it very clearly. So, why did I not just say no? The reason why is I'm a very strong believer that I do stand up for what I believe in, for what I need, for what I want for my children, and for what I think is good for them or not. However, life also taught me that it is quite clever to actually not blurt out with things straight away. Not always. Sometimes there are situations where it's important, but to think about it, to sit with it, to go into reflection, and to also quite strongly consider how could this affect the other person. And I knew instantly that this program was actually very life changing for him and has brought him a lot. And he came out of his shell and has become this beautiful, confident, strong person that he always was, yet he didn't allow it to come out. So I felt, because I know that he sees me as a very strong person, that if I was to blurt out my no, this is not right for my family straight away, that I could easily crush his beliefs, or maybe not his beliefs, yet his confidence level that he's worked quite hard on could have maybe crumbled a little bit. And I felt it was very important for me to sit with it and to actually look into what is it that I don't feel aligned with, because I knew he would ask me for details and for answers. So a couple of days later, we had this most beautiful, very open, very calm, and very productive conversation about my reasoning behind it. And the interesting part was there wasn't so much a reasoning rather than a gut instinct. And I trust my intuition very strongly because it has led me a very long way. And as I shared with you many times after Rob passed, my intuition went through the roof and became something that I really relied upon very intensely for making the right decisions for me and the boys, because there was no other adult to bounce it off with. So that's when I learned that trusting my intuition was a skill that I needed and wanted to develop further and further, to be able to just rely on that and use it like that, not having to overthink things, just knowing quite instinctively that I can trust what comes up. And the first thing that came up was, I do not want my boys to do that. Then further we went into the discussion of, oh, by the way, if you consider for your boys to do that, they really appreciate if the parents would consider doing it too. And I'm like, oh, there we go. And that was a definite no. I was like, I don't want to do this particular training. And it's not because I'm not open to further training. I love further training and I do it on an ongoing basis. Yet there was a definite intuition no for this particular training. And then the conversation ended in, so if you do decide that you boys are going to do that, you do need to do that too. So it went from the boys, then maybe me, and then definitely me. And I'm like, hmm. So in our conversation 3, 4 days after, it all came out as, okay, let's talk about this, what happened here. And that's when I realized the connection between what happened there, what I felt was a sales call, even if you didn't want to call it that, that's absolutely fine, to how we handle grief. How do we allow people in? We trust our intuition. That's the exact point. When somebody comes to us and pushes us into something that we are not ready, the doors just close even firmer and we put a lock in front of that door. So, where does this opening doors come in? It is really the moment when you realize that somebody has got something or acts in a certain way that feels great for you, that feels aligned with you, that shows you something that you truly desire and feel that you want, you'll go for it. There is no need to close doors, to protect yourself, to hide behind, to close the other person out. If you like something, you'll go for it. That's just the way it is. That's in our nature. We go forward, we move forward when we see something that we like. When we see something that doesn't feel right, we automatically move back or we just stand there and wait and observe. So, what is the lesson in this? My response was, if you believe in something so strongly, that is so intensely life changing for you, then just be that person. Be that change. And that's what will attract people. Not the trying to get them or pushing them into a course. I understand that it was not his intention to push me. I do understand that very clearly. I do understand that he's so passionate about it that he just wanted me and the boys to experience the exact same thing. I understand and truly believe wholeheartedly that his intention was pure. He had no financial benefit from getting me into this course. Yet the way it was approached pushed me away rather than opening the doors. So, why is this so important for me to talk about with you here? This is exactly what I do in my movement, Loving Life After Loss. I feel that all I do in this movement is opening doors. I'm showing you doors, I'm showing you opportunities, I'm showing you ways. And yes, there are free programs, there are paid programs. There's the retreat that is also paid for. There is my weekly lives that I do right now that are free. There is love and support in this group beyond measure without any payment. So this is not about money or not money. This is not about does it cost me anything or not. This is about what does it cost you not being here from an emotional point of view. The biggest feedback that I receive in this very group is that I'm finally home. People finally get me. People understand me. I feel the love and support in this group, and this is because I open my doors to you. I allow you in with everything I have, with my tools, with my love and support for you, with my holding space for you, with everything that I do, with my authenticity. I share my tears, I share my joy, I share my everything with you here. That to me is opening doors. That to me attracts the people who want that. That to me is people reaching out to me and say, I want to be able to do what you do. I want to be able to see my grief the way you see yours. I want to be able to heal like you do. I want to be able to allow vulnerability in. That to me is opening doors. What do you see when you look around you? How do people live their life? I would love for you to really go into observer mode and look around you. What attracts you in your life right now? What is it that you feel really drawn to? And I'm talking about everything around you, the bling, the love, the behavior, the everything around you. What is it that attracts your attention, your desire? What is it that you want in life right now? And when you look at that, what you actually want, all you will see is open doors everywhere. This is like a pregnant woman walking around and all of a sudden all she can see is pregnant women. This is like you wanting to buy a yellow Lamborghini and all of a sudden all you see is yellow Lamborghinis. Everything that you want, you will find. Everything that you focus on, that you really desire, it will appear in your life. And I'm not even talking about law of attraction at all here. I'm talking about your filter. Your filter changes according to what you want. So when you focus on something that you want, it will appear in front of you. When you see something that you really desire, it will feel like an open door to you. When you feel something that you're not aligned with, like I didn't feel aligned with that very cause, it will feel like me blocking the door if somebody pushes me too far, no matter what the intention. I honored his intention, I really did. That phone call that we had 3 days later was so beautiful, I believe, for the two of us. For me to be able to say it to him, what came up for me, and for him to be able to also receive that and allow that in. When we talked about opening doors, that was the moment when I decided I want to bring that here. And here is my relationship to the sales of a program and the how do we deal with grief. When we have people that push us into, you need to move forward. Why have you not moved on yet? It's been a year. Why can't you smile? You need to find another partner. You need to get out of it. You need to snap out of here. You need to move on. Why don't you do this? Why? Can you feel the energy? I automatically push back and close that door. In my mind, in my head, in my heart, I go like, don't you dare tell me how I'm supposed to grieve. You've got no idea what I'm going through. Can you feel the energy? Can you feel the block that happens? Can you feel how you close the door or sometimes even slam the door into somebody's face when they tell you what you're supposed to be doing according to them? How they feel you should be handling your grief? Don't you just love slamming the door into people's faces when they talk to you like that? If you do it or don't, it's probably very depending on your character, your upbringing, your usual go-to. How do you deal with confrontation? Yet we've all been there. We've all been in a situation where we just want to slam the door in somebody's face when they say the wrong thing. That is hugely out of alignment, if that makes sense. Yet when we meet somebody who has dealt with an adversity in a way that we wish we could, we are instantly drawn to them. We might ask them questions. How on earth are you doing that? How are you dealing with that? Give me one hint, just one little thing that I can try. We actually go after them. We go after what we want because this feels so healing and so much lighter and more nurturing, more freeing. To me, watching other people being healed is so attractive. I feel that I want to feel like that too. I want to have what they're having. I just love when I see people that work on themselves. I look up to them when they face their own demons, when they face their own pain. And I'm not a huge fan of constantly having to delve into pain again to eventually heal it. I'm a huge believer in focusing on what we want. We've just talked about that in the Blank Canvas program. And one of my favorite sayings is every change is a change in meaning. It is something that my very first trainer taught me over a decade ago. Every change is a change in meaning. So, what meaning do you give the adversity in your life? What do you make it mean? What label do you put on it? Do you classify it as the end of the road? Do you classify it as the fork in the road? Do you classify it as a diversion of where you actually wanted to be? Or do you classify it as a new path that you weren't aware of could open up in front of you, which is very neutral and quite open to change, if that makes sense? So, again, I would love for you to see the choice in there that we have. What choice do you make? And what meaning do you give that adversity in your life? So when you have people confront you with advice, there are a couple of things that I would love for you to do. First of all, I want you to look at the intention behind it. Because very often the intention is so much better than we can see in that very moment, because we react. We slam the door in somebody's face that comes up with a suggestion that feels really confronting to us. So we are often not able to see what's actually behind that closed door. And this brings me to a very important point. We cannot always know whether what's behind the closed door is good for us or not. I trusted my intuition that it wasn't aligned with me, and that's okay. Yet I wouldn't even get the chance to look at it when the door is closed. So from now on, I'm inviting you to, when you have the purest intention at heart, and you've got a positive intention at heart, a healing, a helping intention, then think about how can the other person receive it best versus how can I portray it best. Does that make sense? So don't think about how can I actually show that to the other person best. Think about how would the other person receive it at best. When it comes to grief, when another person is sitting in grief, we very rarely take the time to sit and listen. And this is exactly what the other person usually needs the most: to be heard, to have somebody sit with him or her, to just be there, just really listen with all your heart, to understand what the other person actually needs. And if your suggestion, your advice, your intention to help matches with the other person's need, then you can move forward. Then you can start thinking about a way, how can I move forward to make this work for the other person, rather than pushing in. Pushing usually always gets that pushing back reaction. It hardly ever gets a, oh yeah, come on in, let's open the doors. Hardly ever. It hardly ever works, yet so many people still try it. Whether that be a sales conversation or that be grief. I invite you to listen more, to really feel into what that person needs. And often it just needs a tiny little shift in perspective. When I have a person come into my group, I hardly ever go full force straight away, unless I really trust my intuition on that. I feel that a person needs to hear it. then maybe. But usually, when you go into my group, you feel that I give them little shifts of perspective, baby steps. Trust that tiny shifts will bring a huge outcome. Everything I do, everything I offer on tools, advice, help, the talks that I have with people behind the scenes is giving them a little shift in perspective, a tiny little thing they haven't thought about. And I want to share one of the most common ones. And I believe I've talked a lot about that previously, but I feel that it fits perfectly with this conversation. The statement, I had no choice. See what I mean? Here's a tiny little shift, a tiny shift that makes a huge difference in your way of dealing with life, dealing with your grief, dealing with your adversity. When you sit in the I had no choice, you automatically sit in victim mode. And coming out of that takes a lot more effort than acknowledging that you are choosing, that you are choosing every single day, that you have made a choice. It's not, I had no choice, I had to get through this, I had to survive grief. I read that all the time. Just recently, today, yesterday, there was a post in my group about I had no choice but to survive. That in itself, surviving in itself, is a choice. It might not be a conscious choice, it's a very subconscious choice to get through that, yet it is a choice, and it is a choice that needs love and to be seen and acknowledgement. It needs nurturing. Seeing that choice, that you actually made that choice, is life changing per se. It is so important for you to allow yourself to see that. Because when you look at reality, I'm going to give you one example. I have recently been invited as a speaker on the Suicide Prevention Summit. And believe me, when you deal with suicide on a professional level like this lady did and does, who organised this summit, you realise that there are other choices out there. You realise how many people choose to check out. And I'm not saying that suicide is the only way to check out. There are people that check out by through drugs, through alcohol, through other meds, through antidepressants, through whatever they need or they feel they need to get through this situation. So if you are one of those people getting through life, being alive, and getting through life without being numbed out by drugs or alcohol, you have made an amazing choice, and I want you to appreciate that. I want you to acknowledge that. I want you to be proud of that. Own it. You are making choices on a daily basis. And I believe it's time for you to see that. Too often in all these grief groups out there, including this one here, unfortunately, people feel I had no choice. They fall into this, well, I had no choice but to survive, which is not true. Look around just in this group, look around in other grief groups, look around in the world. How many people make different choices that are unhealthy, that are really sad, that are life altering or even life ending? So don't ever tell me, if you're listening to this right now, don't tell me you don't have a choice. You made that choice, and I want you to acknowledge that, to own it, to nurture it, and to be kind to yourself. So from now on, when you get confronted with something, whether that be a sales conversation or advice about how you're supposed to grieve, there are two things I want you to think about, two things I want you to remember. First one is trust your intuition. Allow yourself to really foster and nurture your intuition, because it's something that you do want to rely on. Learn how to trust it. It is something that we can all learn. And secondly, allow yourself to pause, to not react but to take the time to respond to what's been going on, to look behind the scenes and think about what was it that brought up this reaction for me, and how can I now say that in a healthy way without slamming doors into people's faces, but with also being mindful of my space and who and what I allow in. So when you, next time when something comes up, actually try out what it would feel like to allow yourself to look at the intention rather than judging by what's said to you, what's offered to you, and go into reactive mode. See if that changes something for you. I would love to see a lot more open doors in our lives, and it's up to all of us to work on that. So I'm deeply grateful for the conversation I had with this person, because I really value him tremendously. So with that being said, I'm going to say goodbye to you for now. And I would love, as always, if you could leave a comment and I'll get back to you. Have a beautiful week ahead. This is Maria Leslie signing off. Bye for now.